the root of all discomfort and the root of all unhappiness stems from expectations. Expecting things to be one way and then they turn out another way. I expected to be rich. I expected to be skinny. I expected to have kids by 35 and I'm not even in a relationship. It should be like this. It was supposed to be like that, right? So understand, to say I should be healthier, I should have more money, I should anything, is the same thing as me saying the sun should set at 12 midnight, not at 9 o'clock at night. It's like I'm arguing with the reality of the universe.
You are listening to Personal Development Mastery Podcast, where you will find inspirational conversations and actionable takeaways to master yourself and improve your life. I am your host, 𝗁𝗁𝗵𝗀, and my mission is to inspire you to grow, stand out, and take action towards a purposeful and fulfilling life. In this podcast, I invite myself inside the minds of successful entrepreneurs, authors, spiritual teachers, thought leaders, people who share their journey, milestones, and failures for you to be inspired to grow. In each episode, you will find actionable takeaways that you can implement right now, so make sure you follow the podcast to get them as soon as they are released. I remind my regular listeners here that for a short while, the podcast will have one episode a week rather than two. In today's show, I'm delighted to speak with Paul Levitin. Paul, you are a mindset and self-confidence coach, a certified personal trainer and nutrition coach, a health and wellness expert, a speaker, and a writer. You are the host of the 𝗵𝗂𝗵𝗂𝗋𝗄 podcast, in which I had the pleasure to join you as a guest earlier this year. And you are passionate about helping millennial professionals overcome self-doubt, make more money doing what they love, and become happier, healthier humans. Paul, welcome to the show, and it's a real pleasure, and it is my turn to welcome you to my show after our previous conversation we had a few months ago, so it's great to have you here.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm super excited to be here. I've been looking forward to this conversation for a while, and I'm very honored to be here on your show as well.
I really much was looking forward to it as well. I remember our conversation on your show was very authentic, and it went in many different directions, and it was very nicely free flowing. So yeah, certainly one of those conversations that you want to have again with someone when it goes like that. So here we are. We are going to speak, Paul, about personal development and some elements of it in specific. Before we go there, shall we start with a bit of your story, your background? So do you want to share with us maybe a turning point, a big milestone in your life in terms of your journey that maybe steered you into a different direction?
Yeah, for sure. So as you mentioned in the intro, I have my professional background is in all different types of coaching. So I am a confidence coach, but I was a personal trainer. I was a nutrition coach. So I've been helping people change for a long time. But all of that came from me changing my own life, actually, because when I was younger, I was not this guy. I was not the happy, healthy human. When I was younger, I was partying a lot, I was drinking a lot, I was doing a lot of things like that, and I was also, being from New York City, where I'm from, I got into some rough crowds, and I was, I will say, a bit of a criminal, and I ended up in my early 20s getting arrested, and in a real way facing a serious amount of jail. I was arrested, and I had a literal come to Jesus moment that first night when I was spending the night in jail. And it wasn't like, okay, this is something that I'm going to just be in and out. And it wasn't like, oh, this is like, I'm going to get out of this. It was like, I literally had to, with no one else to blame but myself, sit and realize that like I actually threw my life away. And I was fortunate enough to be that it was my first offense, and also probably because I am a straight white male from a well-off family and could afford a lawyer and all the other privileged things. But for a confluence of reasons, I spent about 30 days in jail, which is a considerable amount of time. It's not nothing. Yeah. But then I got out and I got, probation and a bunch of other things. But at that moment, I understood. I was like, I had all of my friends at the time were in that world. I had my friend, that's all I knew. It was just, you run around and you make money and you're doing all this stuff. And that's what it was all about. It was about making money and partying and doing this stuff. And then I saw that clearly I see where that world is taking me. And I had the very unique opportunity of getting a scrape, but not getting dinged too badly, of not really. And at that time I decided that I had to change. And that was when I started. It's all of the time that I was taking partying, that I was taking with drinking, that I was taking doing drugs, going out, trying to find new girls, doing whatever I was doing to make money. I took it and I started reading and going to personal development seminars and listening to podcasts and watching YouTube. And I just changed everything because there was I had nothing else, right? I didn't have any real, I had a job, but it was a job so much as that I just needed something to do. So people didn't think I was doing other things, but I started to really actually take things seriously. And I was lucky enough that my job at the time was a personal trainer. And the reason I say that's lucky is because it's in the world of making yourself better.
Yes.
So because I decided that I already had this job, I was just going to start taking it seriously now. So again, I started to learn about fitness. I started to learn about health. I started to learn about behavior. And when I did that, I started to help people. And I realized that when I was younger, I thought it was cool to make a bunch of money and spend it at a club or something like that. And what did that got me? It got me arrested and in jail. And then I had this job where I was helping people, and I was helping people live longer, and I was, helping people play with their kids, and I was helping people be healthier. And that got me fulfillment, and it got me to feel good. So I was I just, I kind of, left one world and went all into another because that was the only way that I saw that I could, right? I couldn't be half in and half out. So I put all my time and energy into just making myself better so I could be a better trainer, a better coach. But it was always for me because I needed that to be able to survive. And then the thing that happened was I just got really good at it. And I realized that I could help people and that I could have a good life by helping people. It didn't have to be about, again, making money and doing stupid things and anything else, because that stuff, I did it and it didn't fulfill me. It was just every day was just another, okay, let's go drink, let's go do drugs, because you were empty inside. Whereas when I committed myself to helping others and helping myself, I could wake up and feel good about what I did the day before and not regret my actions from the night before. And I could look forward to the day that I was having today. So that's a long way of saying that this all started with me changing myself. And then once I had it, I saw both sides of the coin. It was I know what it's like to have a bad life, and I know what it's like to have a good life. And it's so simple. People, and then once you see that, it's I see people struggling. And again, not in the way that I was. I'm not talking about people. I'm talking about just people struggling because they're unhealthy, struggling because they're unhappy, struggling because they're just not enjoying life. And I'm like, there's a better way. And once I understood that, I just dedicated my life to spreading that knowledge.
Wow. There are so many things that came to my mind now. You were saying that what you said at some point, that you started growing and developing yourself because you had to, but then you realized that you were also helping other people. That reminded me of, I also felt for a big while when I started personal development. I felt like I was doing it for myself, but there is a very blurry territory between what is good for yourself and what is good for others, especially when they are related with that. Because on the other hand, you have the growth, your personal growth, but as you grow, inevitably you contribute, you help others. So your personal development is collective development. That took me a few years to realize that, but I just remember that when you were saying your story, because it starts with us, and then by helping people change, as you said, we feel good, we contribute, we do, and it's a beautiful cycle or a spiral in that way,
right.
that goes upward. So, did you want to add something to that? Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Well, one, I agree completely, right? One of my favorite sayings is a rising tide raises all ships,
Sure.
right? And this is why, people have this thing about like self-care, right? Is self-care selfish? And I'm like, the thing is that people look at something like self-care, again, like me spending my time going to seminars or spending money on a coach or, what are all these type of things? How can you say to do that if I have kids or if I have a spouse or if I have family? But it's like the best version of me is the best version of me for the world, right? So the best version of you is not a burned out, overwhelmed, overstressed version of you. It's the vigorous version of you, the lit up version of you. So when people understand that, it's like, it's not just a better me. It's like a better me is a better uncle, a better me is a better brother, a better me is a better son. So it's not just the selfish. And it's funny you said a spiral. I think of everything in spirals, right? I always say there's only two directions. We're either spiraling up or spiraling down,
Yes.
right? Because a lot of people, when they think about, personal development stuff, right? They might say, well, like, that's great. I wish I could do that. But like, I just, if it would be nice to be better, but I'm not the worst where I'm at right now. But what people don't understand is you don't get to stay where you are. You're either going up or you're going down, right? Life is motion, right? The universe is motion. The universe is entropy.
Yes.
Atoms are colliding. Everything is moving, right? A plant does not stop growing. It's growing until it dies, right? Your body is changing all the time. So that's why so once I understood this, it becomes a very binary choice for me, right? It's not I'm getting better or I'm staying where I am. It's I'm getting better or I'm getting worse. I'm getting healthier or I'm getting sicker. I'm getting smarter or I'm getting dumber. And then when I have that decision, to me, it becomes a very simple choice. It's like, I don't want to choose to get worse. So that means I have to choose to get better and I have to take that upward spiral. And the cool thing is that when you do that, again, it's helping you and it feels better and it gets easier. And then you help more people and then they help you. And it just is better for you and better for the world. And I can't see in my head a better way to be.
It's a great distinction what you said about people believing that they're staying still, whereas matter of fact they're not. You can't stay still. If you're not going up, you're going down, and it's once you see it like that, and you said use the word binary, then it's much more obvious it becomes. And I will add to what you said that everything moves, that the tendency of things is to move downwards. So if we leave things without effort, our own effort in any way, the effort of growth in this case, we will go down. We can't stay floating. It's like, a bird or an airplane. It needs effort to go up. Otherwise, no effort. It goes effortlessly very much down because the gravity, which is you said like entropy, it is pretty much the same analogy. So it is a journey, Paul, a lifelong journey, and that's how I see it. You can never say I've arrived there and stop your efforts, because then you will start going down again. There is no there. It is a journey.
Right. Yeah. And I think that it's 100% true, right? Exactly what you just said. But I think that to some people, that seems overwhelming, right? They go, "What? It's a lifelong journey. I never get to stop." That, like, what do you mean? They're like, I just want to finish. But to me, it's more of like, it's like you get to continue this forever, right? You get to always grow. You get to always move forward. And it's a thing that is a gift that we get to do that. And again, this is all how you frame things, because I can look at that in that way and say, oh my gosh, it's a lifelong journey. I have 80 more years of this. That's crazy. How could I keep going and like never stop learning or something like that? Or I could say, oh my God, this is a lifelong journey. I get 80 more years of this. Like I get to keep going and never stop learning. And it's the same scenario, but it's just how I choose to frame it in my mind.
Yeah. And the journey will end one way or another. It will end. It's up to us to either, choose to make the effort, which, it may sound like it is some kind of a strenuous, vigorous effort, but it is what the fulfillment lies in. I mean, yes, it does need effort, but sometimes I smile when people say I would like to, have margaritas on the beach, or it is this kind of that portrayed as, the ultimate time out or time off. But yeah, for how long will you do that? A few days, a few weeks? What you can't do that. It's you're not growing when you do that. Paul, there is something, a particular topic that, and I'm kind of switching gears now, but there is a topic that I did want to discuss with you, because it's one of the things that you talk about often, and it is our self-doubt, the impostor syndrome, which is, I believe, very much related. And I wanted to ask you first, from your experience working with your clients, how does this, express itself? How it is appear? Does it appear clearly as self-doubt, or does it maybe disguise itself as something else?
Yeah, so I think it can be in both areas, right? Sometimes it's very straightforward. Like people are like, I just can't do that. Like I don't believe in myself. I don't, there's no way that can happen. And then there's sometimes where we get into, I call them like thought gremlins, and it's like where your brain will kind of drop these little thoughts into your head that will spiral again, right? And they'll grow and grow and grow, and they end up in self-sabotage. And it seems like when I say thought gremlins, what they do is they justify it, right? And it makes it seem like it's like, well, I had to quit. I couldn't do this. But it's really, it's a small seed of self-doubt that is watered and watered and watered, right? So what that might look like, and you mentioned imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is just a form of self-doubt, right? Imposter syndrome is the feeling like I don't deserve this level of success. And it happens a lot with, entrepreneurs, but CEOs, anyone who reaches a certain, anyone who reaches a certain level, they go, well, who am I to have this? And that's just, right, again, that's just self-doubt. But it starts with, because you have that in you, right? You have that seed in your brain. You might start to, again, self-sabotage in ways of you might not show up as powerfully at your meetings. If you're a young executive sitting around a table of 10 people in a meeting, and you have some self-doubt and imposter syndrome, you're not just going to get up and quit, but you're not going to raise your hand as often. You're not going to stand up for yourself when you have an idea that will work. And these little things, they seem logical to you because you go, oh, well, Tom's idea, it must be better than mine. Or maybe if my idea was that good, like they would have asked me about it. I shouldn't have to like raise my hand or something like that. And in a roundabout way, eventually you're going to quit. You're going to lose out on what you're doing. And that ends up being self-sabotage, right? So it doesn't come but when that happens, when it's 3 months from now and they pick that other guy's proposal over yours, it's like, oh, well, that's just what it is. He had the better idea. But it came from that seed of self-doubt, that seed of imposter syndrome that didn't let you take the steps necessary to actively do what you need to do. That, again, if you realize that would have been the actual best thing for everyone, now not only are you hurting yourself, you're hurting the company. You're hurting everyone around you because you didn't have the wherewithal to, fight against those thoughts that started as negative, right? That it started as just a little thought like, maybe I don't have the best idea at this. And all of a sudden it's 6 months later and your company is on a completely different direction because of a small little thought that changed everything.
There are two important things there. One is that what you said about the seeds of thoughts, that it is usually very small ones that over time they multiply if we allow them or if we nurture them even. Sometimes we do it without knowing, but I believe the more you entertain a thought, whichever thought it is, it will grow inevitably over time. And, when you were saying that example about the executive who doesn't speak their thought up, you reminded me of me. Not so long ago, let's say 8 years ago, I was doing my master's degree, so I'm at the university, at the lecture hall, wanting to ask a question, a clarification question, which would mean raising my arm and, asking in front of, I don't know how many, 50 or people who were in there. And because of these thoughts that, there were all sorts of different things. From one of them, it was even that my English is not, good enough for a classroom because I was in Manchester in England. So I thought my English is not good enough for that. All these thoughts that had planted as seeds, as you said, from a long time, were manifesting in me, not raising my hand, not asking the question, because I thought maybe the question is ridiculous, maybe the people, what will think of me, and so on. And the crazy thing and the funny thing is that I would hold the question to myself only to have someone else a few seconds later ask the exact question that I was thinking of asking. And, the professor saying, this is a great question. So that would even make me feel even worse, because on top of that, then I had the shame that, I didn't speak it. What is a good idea? So, how do you approach this with one who has this kind of impostor or self-doubt and don't speak up? How do you approach it in terms of beginning to correct it or improve it?
Yeah, it's interesting because, self-doubt and imposter syndrome, they're the same, but kind of opposite ends of the spectrum, right? Like self-doubt is more like, I don't have anything good to say. And imposter syndrome is, I'm going to say this, but I don't understand why people even listen to me, right? And I think that all of this comes this is just my own personal philosophy or my own theory. All of this comes from the understanding we live in a society that has status and has upper and lower. But somewhere deep inside of us, as humans, we have to understand that we're all just humans, right? So imposter syndrome is, I can be the boss in my company and I can fire and I can hire. I can be the rich guy and looking down on someone who's poor, but I understand that I'm just a human. And I no matter what money says or society says, at some internal level, I have to understand that there is nothing that makes me better than anyone. It's impossible, right? So, because I know we're all going to die the same, we're all going to be buried in the same plot of land, So we have these two dualities fighting inside of us. This one thing where it says society, I'm getting all these accolades, I'm getting promotions, I'm getting money, that these things say I'm better than someone. And yet that person is a human just like me, and quite possibly is happier than me, is healthier than me, and all these other things. So we have our internal humanity up against the societal norms of status and all of these things that are come into play every day in societal games. And that puts us it puts our brain in a weird place, because in reality, like in terms of human evolution, these societies like this have still been like a blip in terms of evolution, right? For any time, if you're talking about going evolutionarily tens of hundreds of thousands of years, we were hunter-gatherers, we lived in a tribe, and everyone was more or less on the same field. Like there might be like a chieftain or someone who was physically stronger, that was a physical thing for a while. But the thing of having someone who can just be above other people because they have more money or because they were born into the right family or something like that, that's only, a couple thousand years old, maybe. So it doesn't really jive with us. And then self-doubt is kind of the same thing in the other direction, right? It's kind of like, I know that I'm the same as everyone else, but I'm lower than them for some reason, right? It's like that, again, that guy is on stage and he's speaking, he deserves to have his his thoughts expressed. He's smarter than me. Obviously he has, better things to say than me. I'm just sitting here in the audience. Who am I to raise my hand? Even though, again, in some way we realize that it's like, why the hell is this guy different than me? So we have inside of us all the time these things going inside, and the way to start to break out of that, in my experience, is what I just call is just getting to the facts, right? Because everything that that I'm talking about, these discrepancies come from feelings and emotions against facts, right? So the fact is we're both humans. The feeling is he's above me. The fact is he's a professor and I'm a student. The feeling is that means my thoughts and opinions are not up to par with his. Right. So we have to just really, and this is a very hard thing for people. So I don't say to seem like oversimplify this, but it really is when you can look at yourself and realize like, what am I doing that's based on fact? And what am I doing that's based on feeling? Then you can start to discern between, okay, like, is this real or not? And then you can start to make different decisions, because when you realize you're like, again, like, okay, wait, no, like, yes, he's speaking on stage, but that doesn't actually mean that I'm stupid, right? Like, that's just like, that's how I feel in this moment. But, I feel lots of ways, all different times. Sometimes I feel happy. Sometimes I feel sad. Sometimes it's a great day and I feel sad. Sometimes it's a horrible day and I feel happy. Emotions are just weird like that. So when I realize that I can have a little bit more control over my emotions, I might not be able to change the facts, but often it's not the facts that are getting me mixed up. It's the feelings.
I was about to say that the emotional understanding of how you feel is it's a big game changer. Not only in this situation that we're talking about, but I think in pretty much everything in life. And as for the stage you were saying, for some reason you reminded me again, that's another time, the second time you reminded me of something from my past, that when I was, in my early personal development journey steps, when I used to go to the events for every other week I would be at an event, the people on stage, I was very much looking up and being inspired by them. I didn't feel like, I was worse or better. I didn't have this kind of feeling, but I was, obviously they were on the stage speaking, but the main feeling that I had from being in that room was, inspiration, that wow, this person, I would love to be like that person. So that was the main, feeling, and that just came up for me to share. I'm not sure why I did, but it just came.
No, but that's interesting, because I think that's exactly it, right? So that's the difference between someone who is self-doubt or not, right? You just said you saw those people in that crowd. Say there's 5,000 people in that crowd watching some Tony Robbins on stage or whatever. Some people are going to feel that self-doubt, that why he's better than me. Some people like you are going to feel inspired, because that's the feeling of that other feeling that I was saying, that's like, there's nothing different about him than me, right? So if I see someone on stage like that, I go, wait, we're the same. We have the same 24 hours in a day. We have the same abilities. There's nothing that he can do that I can't. So if he can do that, that means I can. And that's super cool to me. That's like, now I'm inspired. Now it's like, it's the opposite. It doesn't weigh me down. It lifts me up, because I see what's possible. It's just a different, again, it's the same. We're two different people sitting in the same crowd, seeing the same thing, and we take such different things away from it. And that just goes to show you how different people are in the way that we see things.
Yeah. And what you said, Sonia, what is possible, because theoretically, because we both, whatever one can do, the other can do as well, but theoretically, practically, it's not exactly like that. Mm-hmm. Maybe it would be if we equalize time and other factors. Mm-hmm. But being able to go towards that direction and in your own way, because we each are very unique, so you can't copy anyone else, because that is really a terrible idea, and whoever has done it, not only they failed in copying, but also they have I don't think they have felt fulfillment. I think it was Jim Carrey who said it's better to fail at what you are than to succeed at something that you're not. Something like that. So yeah, being authentic also is very important, being yourself and not someone else's, not a different version of someone else. It's
Right.
Yeah.
Right, and that definitely can, I think, trip people up too. Is right, like exactly. A lot of people seek someone else's version of success, right? So they seek that, and this is why. And then they one, most people won't get there, but two, if they do, they find that they're not nearly as fulfilled as they would have, right? And this is the person who climbs the corporate ladder and gets the whatever job, and then they're like, wait, what the hell? I don't like this. Or the person who goes to all the seminars and does all the yoga and does all the things. They're like, oh, so-and-so said that this is what's supposed to bring me, the thing. And this is the hard part, is that people want an answer, right? Everything lies in the gray area. But people want black or white. They want, tell me what to do, right? Give me the exact steps. I can follow them. But the thing is that even if you follow the exact steps that I take, the exact steps that you've taken, other people are not going to feel like we feel, because they're just different. Some people needed a different route. Some people love Tony Robbins. Some people hate him. Some people love meditation. Some people get nothing out of it. So there is no one right answer for this stuff. And that is the frustrating piece for people, because it's like doing the work is already hard enough. But now I have to actually figure out what to do as well. They want it to be the simple math, but in reality, it's like it's art.
Yes, it is. And if life was simple, I don't think it would be much point in if there was nothing to do or figure out, and everything if would be taken care of and figured out. I think it's part of the experience and the fun, and it's challenge, but it is what grows us.
Right.
Paul, based on this conversation we've had today, let's say you were to give to the listener something actionable, something that they can pick and implement tonight or tomorrow morning to make a change, what would you tell him or her?
Well, I mean, the best piece of advice that I can give someone, I think, to change your life is not easy. It's simple to say, but to put into action is not easy at all. But I think that the root of all discomfort and the root of all unhappiness stems from expectations. Mm-hmm. Expecting things to be one way and then they turn out another way. I expected to be rich. I expected to be skinny. I expected to have kids by 35 and I'm not even in a relationship. It should be like this. It was supposed to be like that. I did all this whole project, and my boss should have noticed me. He was supposed to give me a raise after that. Shoulds and expectations conflict, going back to what I was just saying, with facts, right? So facts are what is. Expectations and shoulds are feelings about something I'm imposing on the reality of the universe, right? So understand, to say I should be healthier, I should have more money, I should anything, is the same thing as me saying the sun should set at 12 midnight, not at 9 o'clock at night. It's like I'm arguing with the reality of the universe. So anytime I say I expect or I should, I'm saying that things are this way. They are. They literally are. But I want them to be a different way. And inherent in that is I'm going to be upset, because now my version of what I want reality to look like does not look like reality. And that can't be a comfortable place to live. So it's hard, but every time I talk to a client, every time I start with anyone, I have to just say, whenever we're talking, I'm just saying, what is the root here? And 9 out of 10 times when they're talking about something they're upset about, something they're angry about, something they're frustrated with, they're struggling, if we just dig in, they're going to go expectations. Because I expected it to be one way. Now, that's not to say that you can't have expectations about the future. You want to, right? I go to work every day because I expect to get paid, right? I eat healthy because I expect to lose weight in the future. That's fine. But I have to detach from the outcome and focus on the actions. Because actions, again, are facts. I can get up and eat and move my body. I can read more if I want. I can do the work. But I cannot have an emotional attachment to the expectation of the way that it should unfold, because that's outside of my control. So the more I can focus on my own personal actions and the less I can focus on external outcomes, I think that is like the key to everything.
It certainly is, and I liked very much you said that when you put your expectations, it's like arguing with the reality of the universe, and it's a very great way to put it. And because you mentioned Tony Robbins a couple of times in our conversation, he says that he's about expectations. He says trade your expectations for appreciation, and your life will change in a moment. And expectations, it was also very great what you said, that yes, it's good to expect things, but we're not in control of the outcome. So detaching from the outcome is key. So thanks for that. That's indeed very useful and valuable, Paul. I want to ask you also, tell us about your podcast as well, and where do you want to direct the listener who want to find out more about you and what you do? And then I also have some quick fire questions to end the conversation.
Sure. Yeah, I appreciate that. So my podcast is called 𝗵𝗶𝗇𝗃. You can find it anywhere that podcasts are found. I'm sure it exists. And 𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗃 was on my show a few months back, but there's a ton of episodes. If you like these type of conversations, these are the type of conversations I love having. This is why I wanted to be on 𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁's show. And also, if you want to connect with me on social media or anything like that, it's just my name, Paul Levitin, across all social media platforms. Very simple: Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn, wherever the internet exists, I exist as well. And I do, if people are interested in, some of the things we talked about earlier about self-doubt, about what I was just saying about, detaching from expectations, I have a masterclass around getting out of cycles of self-sabotage, where I talk about a lot of this stuff. So if anyone wants, it's a free 45-minute masterclass that I will send to 𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁, and you can get the link from, wherever.
That's great. No, that's fantastic. Thanks, Paul. I will put it in the show notes for sure. So let me ask you then some quick fire questions to start wrapping things up. And because I know you've listened to my podcast, the first one I always ask is, what does personal development mean to you? And I think you asked me that question on your show, so now it is my turn.
Yeah, full circle. And it's funny because I was just listening to your show yesterday, and I was like, that got to that part of the thing, and I was like, oh, I got to have a good answer for this. And now, of course, I've forgotten it already.
You are prepared.
Yeah. So, but honestly, I think at its base level, personal development is everything, right? Because of what we've said already. You're getting better or you're getting worse. You're spiraling up or you're spiraling down. So it's not, personal development or chill. It's personal development or die. Right. And, in a physical way, again, I come from the fitness space, so I think about my physical body a lot, but also the mind. We know for a fact that people who read more, who do Sudoku, who do more puzzles, who are mentally more active, their brain ages much more gracefully. They have less chances of having Alzheimer's, less chances of dementia, a million things like that. So personal development, to me, it becomes our duty. It is not like a luxury of, oh, well, that's cool for them, but I don't have time. This is part of the human experience, just like exercise, right? Like people look at exercise as if it's like, well, that's a cool thing that I'll do when I have time. It's like, no, you don't. This is the entry ticket to a life well lived, is moving your body and moving your mind. And it doesn't have to be in the ways that 𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁 and I have talked about, where it's like going to seminars every weekend. Like, obviously, I'm a little insane with this stuff. I understand that. But it can just be, I don't know, again, reading one book a year. The average American reads no books. So if you read one book a year, you're better than average, right? Watching, sometimes when I'm cooking dinner, I'm watching YouTube instead of having dinner. I'll watch like a TED Talk instead of watching Netflix or something like that. It's small things. I'm not saying that you have to reinvent the wheel, but small things to make yourself better, I think, are a necessary part of a life well lived.
Thank you. And let's say you could go back in time and meet your 18-year-old self. What's one piece of advice you would give him?
Well, obviously, other than the avoiding the whole scenario that I got myself into, but assuming not that, if I'm
Don't
just
go
giving
to
general,
prison.
right? Yeah, that would be a good one. But just general advice, it would be read. So I read now I'm on pace to read 100 books this year. I've read about 60 so far.
Wow.
But between the time I was 16 and 28, I didn't read a single book. I was that, so people hear that and they go, oh, that's so impressive. But it's like, I was not a reader. Once like school did not force me to read a book, I stopped reading for my entire life. It wasn't until, again, later I understood personal development and I found that binary choice again. I said, oh, if reading makes me better and not reading makes me worse, then I should read. And I was like, and then I see all these books and I'm like, oh my God, there's so many books out there and there's so much stuff that I don't know. And I was like, I just need to read it all. So I'm a little bit crazy. So I read a lot and I read all the time. But if I wish there's no way that I'll ever know all of the things that there are to know, but I wish that I would have just started a little bit earlier. And I know that the compound interest of knowledge is the most powerful thing that we have to our disposal.
That's great. So, based on what we've discussed today, what's one book that you would recommend to the listener as a resource?
So there's one book that I recommend to everyone is The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Stephen Covey. That's to me like the book of all the books. I look every other book after that. I'm just kind of like, they're just kind of trying to do what he did a little bit, like he kind of said it all already. But I also recently read a book called The 𝗁𝗂𝗃 Dilemma by Seth Godin, which is more about the being able to bet on yourself as a person, as a creator, and getting out of the trap of the societal trap of being just another cog in the machine. And that was a really eye-openening one for me that I really think will help people shift out of that one place in their life to get to that next step.
Paul, I want to thank you very much for our conversation today. I really enjoyed this second podcast conversation we're having. So thank you very much for joining me today. I want to wish you the very best with your mission of helping people and creating that so much needed ripple effect in the times that we live in. Any last parting words from you?
No, I just wanted to say thank you, and to anyone listening, I've said this to Agi before, but I think these are the conversations that will change the world, right? I think that stuff like this is what's important, and I appreciate anyone who's listening, and I hope to do it again in the future.
I hope you enjoyed listening and that you got a huge amount of value from today's episode. If you have, please share this episode with someone who you think will benefit from it. If you want to know more about me and what I do, visit my website 𝗁𝗂𝗄𝗆.com. And until next time, stand out, don't fit in,